If you're receiving this transmission, you are the resistance, declaring war on the New World Order. TruthRadioShow.com. All right, folks, welcome to the Dan Bidondi Show right here on TruthRadioShow.com. We've got an awesome guest today, as you see on the screen here. It's Rob Blackwell from his Facebook page, Blackwell Music. And today we've got an awesome show to talk about. We're going to talk about all the financial problems that are going on. The world's about the economy's about to crash and everything else. So, what the heck's going on here? So, Rob here, he's a former banker. Expert in economics here, so he's got to break down to us what the heck is going on here, because and he's great at simplifying what's going on so the public could understand. So, Rob, how you doing? If you want to give a quick introduction to yourself as well.
Yeah, hey buddy, I hope you're doing well. Former investment banker, did it for a little while, got out of it, was grateful to get out of it. Kind of a weird industry to be in, especially during these times. But been out of it a few years and kind of have a grasp on what's going on now. These are really interesting times. No one has ever seen anything like this. I don't think our forefathers could have ever seen anything like this, even through depressions and all that good stuff. I don't think they ever could have seen what's taking place right now.
You can see what's going on out there. That just it's chaos everywhere, and we got chaos going on economically. People losing their jobs. We're over 4 or 5 million now in America that's lost their jobs now, and it's all because of a crisis. Now, people can say what they want if they buy into this whole hype. I think, again, we're not saying, like we said in the shows before, we're not saying the virus is not real. We're not saying that nobody's dying from it, but we do know they're hyperly puffing up the numbers to push their agendas, and we know what that agenda is, and it's all globalist agenda to crash the economy. As they for years we read the white papers, the documents for years how they're going to crash the economy, for years how they're going to push their global governance and force vaccinations, force microchips implants, which is an economic system as well. And Rob here too is going to break into all that as well. And so as everybody should know now, like going to the supermarket, man, the meats are going high, in prices. It's running low. The meats, because they can't afford. It's not that they don't have meats or nothing. The cows, whatever. It's the point that they don't have the help. And here's the thing, Rob, too, right? They said the truckers are essential, which was good. Okay, the supermarkets were essential, was good. But the source of it, the 3-step process to get to your house, you get the farms, the trucks, and the supermarkets. But yeah, they made 2 and 3 essential. But number 1. They seem to forget all about the source. So if there's no number 1, 2 and 3 are going to end up stop going too, and everybody's going to go hungry.
That's right. You see all the cases, confirmed cases at these meat packing plants, right? That's a problem. I finally saw one story the other day where a farmer bottled his own milk and sold it to his community, kind of bypassing the processing. That's where you're going to get us right there, is the processing. So if you can kind of disturb that part of the industry, it's lights out, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you cut off that source, that's it. So now, we heard a lot about Mr. Gates there wants to push his foresight, identification, vaccination, and global currency, ID 2020, and a lot of people think it's the mark of the beast, the RFID implant. So they got all this stuff rolling out what the globalists have called for years ago, and so it's a problem, reaction, solution, old Hegelian dialect, the order out of chaos. He created a synthesis for the thesis, creates thesis, antithesis, creates a synthesis. So those 3 terms, in other words, they create the problem, and then they offer the solution what they wanted to. And yeah, they've been calling for years to get rid of paper cash. They've been calling for years that we need some kind of a formal system under all digital, if you will, and that's why they encourage people to use credit cards more. Now more than ever, they say, oh, the cash could carry the virus and all that, so people are frowning upon you using cash. And so you're starting to see, not starting to see, you've already been seeing this stuff for a while. What do you, in your expertise, you've been into the banking, for a while, you've been into financial business and all that stuff, and I know you're a musician now and all that, but your expertise, when you got into this stuff and everything, did you see this coming? Did you see this going this far?
I did and I didn't. And let me clarify that. When 2008, 2009 hit, we saw what I thought should have been the end of the system that we use for our finance. It didn't end. It only got kind of worse, which to me, again, I saw that it would be bad. I don't think I saw that it would be this catastrophic. These numbers are not only unsustainable, they're beyond that. They're in this hyper bubble land that no one thought we could ever survive. So when this bubble pops, and it will pop, I don't know the outcome. I just know it's bad. So Albert Einstein was quoted as saying, I don't know the weapons that will be used for World War III, but I can tell you World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. And I think that's what we're looking at in our economic world right now. I think there's no going back once this pops.
Oh, I agree 100%, and that's exactly where they want us to be. And I'm not expert in anything economics, man. I know basic math, whatever the case, but so what I'm seeing, though, from my biblical perspective, if I'm studying the New World Order, the part I'm seeing here is, like I said earlier, they are, by design, crashing the economy, getting rid of cash. And as you've seen over the years, them pushing these centralized banks into power, like we had the Federal Reserve in 1913, then became into full power in 1935 with FDR. You had this European central banks with the European Union and everything else, and we got the Brexit thing going on right now, and they're trying to stop Britain from getting out of that, because that's the goal, is to centralize banks, consolidate banks until eventually it's a one world banking system that would, say, hey, we control everything. And this, I know this digital currency, man, that's going to eliminate so much stuff, man. You can't have a yard sale, flea market, anything like that. You couldn't pay your friend $50 to paint in your living room. Oh, well, then they'll look at we're going to tax you and him. Oh, is he an expert? Where's his degree? You know what I mean? And all of a sudden the housing crisis, housing people come on to you. Ridiculous things like that. Or, your brother wants to, fix your brakes or something on your car. Oh, is he a mechanic? Oh, we're going to take your inspection away. He wasn't a certified mechanic. You know what I mean? So we will see a load of garbage roll out. And draconian measures too, you know what I mean? And so same thing with the hair salons. If you're, just say your mom does people's hair out of a house, stuff like that would never be able to happen again without her getting taxed, and she would have to get licensed and all that. So that's where they want to go. I mean, they want total control over your financial system, the whole entire economic system in general, your medical, to track you as well. I mean, we over the years showed on the show here the Orwellian layout of what they want to do, a giant scientific control grid to monitor every move you make, literally.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And but never forget this, Dan, that cash is the ultimate. You mentioned your friend coming to paint your house, or do your brakes on your car or something. It's the ultimate way to kind of hide something, right? I mean, not that people, like you and I are using it nefariously, but say you're a politician and say, you've got you've got the gambling commission, kind of barking down your throat, right? So, like, how do you hide things when you're in power? You do it by anonymity, correct? And so cash is the ultimate way to be anonymous in trading services. And they are cornering the market on that. So what I've been saying is a couple things. Number one, the Federal Reserve is buying everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything. So every industry you can think of, they're buying. And they're making it well known. For example, 2 days ago, they announced all these bailouts for all these big industries, whatever. But 2 days ago, Berkshire Hathaway, I don't know if you heard of this, Warren Buffett's company, they sold all their shares of United States-based airlines. They owned 11% of every United States airline. They sold every single share, every single one of them. All right. But at the end of his message was, hey, don't bet against America. You can't make this stuff up. Right. So yet they are sitting, we're talking about banning cash. They are literally sitting on $124 billion worth of cash or cash equivalents. Again, the ultimate way to hide stuff. So don't ever discount that. We might have to go to a cashless. They might force that on us, but we will never be a truly cashless society, because when you have less ways to be anonymous, you have more ways of control. You have less ways of actually being corrupt. And I mean, you and I were talking about this. These cats, live and breathe corruption, and so. How are you going to be corrupt without having cash? They're going to have access to cash, but we probably won't.
Oh yeah, that's what they want. You know what I mean? And so they can control everything, like I said. So my studies over the years, man, I'm just seeing everything that I've learned just unfold. I mean, through the biblical prophecy, to the globalists openly saying what they're going to do and everything else. I'm just watching it unfold like a well-laid plan, man. And so this whole economic system all has everything to do with everything, because it's what feeds your family, it's what pays your bills and everything else, and it's how why you have to go to work and all that. So this is very important, because the other day actually last week I had John Hall and John Pounders on. We talked about the 501c3 churches, the Mockingbird media. We talked about other stuff, which all eventually ties into each other, whatever the case. But we've been exposing this whole globalist plan for a while, and now we're going to dive in right here into the economics part of that. Which again, I'm not an expert in this stuff, man. Just the based on what I've known and what I see, what I'm a victim of as well too. So Rob, I've seen you on Now You See TV a lot, and you're very well versed with the economic stuff and all that. And I was hoping that you could explain this to me, not just the audience too, but also to me too, how this all works together. And another question too, you talked about the Federal Reserve. Okay, the question is about, they said Trump is taking the Federal Reserve over, and it's supposed to make things better. But what I do know is the Federal Reserve is not even federal; it's a Central European banking cartel. So how is that possible? How does the president take over a cartel that's not even federal?
Well, I'll tell you, and this is not going to sit well with a lot of folks out there, and I'm sorry. I can certainly be proven wrong, but the facts just don't show that that's the truth. So when you look at how things work, okay, just the nuts and bolts of how things work. Like, for example, you go out of your front door in the morning, you sit down in your car, you take the key, you turn it, you put it in, get right. So the kind of nuts and bolts of how things work. The nuts and bolts of how the Federal Reserve works is this. When they issue debt, that is their product, right? So for me, if I release a CD or if I write a book, that is my product. The more I sell of that product, the more powerful I become, correct?
That's correct.
Yep. So when the Federal Reserve issues debt, which is their product, the more powerful they become, the more power they garnish and kind of suck into themselves, all right? That's what's happened. So it's actually the opposite of what people are saying. Trump has not taken over the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has taken over America. And to say otherwise is just kind of not. It's a little naive to say that, just because it shows that, you know, whoever's saying that really doesn't know how things work. So debt is the product of the Federal Reserve. They are issuing debt like you cannot believe, to the tune of trillions of dollars a week, to these banks, to these industries that need bailouts, all this. They're issuing money in the trillions per week. How are they not getting more powerful? I think they're getting way more powerful.
Absolutely. And I had to laugh when people told me that. I'm like, you people realize who the Federal Reserve is, right? And again, I'm not an economics expert, but I do know a U.S. president's not going to take over something that's, you know, like basically a Central European bank that, you know, that's like you said, taken over America. And this is kind of funny too, because it's the same people who used to expose the Federal Reserve. Now all of a sudden they say, oh, well, it's okay now because Trump's taking over. It's like, that doesn't make any sense at all. You know what I mean? And so, you know, and they're writing these stimulus checks and all that. You know, they think, oh, all right, you know, it's going to be better, you know, because Trump's giving it. But if it was Obama, they would be those same people that would say, oh, it's great we're getting a stimulus. If it was Obama, them same people would be like, oh, it's going to crash the economy and everything else because Trump's doing it now. It's okay. You know what I mean? And, it's not okay, because it doesn't matter if it comes from Trump, Obama, Clinton, or whoever. You know, right. It just devaluates the dollar. You know what I mean? And it, you know, handing out money like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, those same people, when George Bush Jr., as I like to call him, started handing out money. Remember those $800 checks that everybody got?
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, you know, just because he has an R after his name, you know, that doesn't make it right. You know, we have not seen the type of inflation that I think is coming yet, with regards to the everyday market. And I think the reason why is because you're not seeing what's called velocity of money. You're not seeing money changing hands a whole lot right now. Okay. That's starting to come now with the stimulus stuff. But a lot of people they're not making new huge purchases with this. They're paying off debt, which is a good thing. However, the velocity of that is not a key indicator of how you know, the economy is working. So when the velocity is zero, it means that there's no new kind of stuff going on. If there's no new big purchases going on, cars, houses, all that good stuff, that's when things start to slow down. We're not seeing inflation because there's no movement, right? But that's coming. So I have a theory that the inflation is hidden in the stock market. The inflation that we should be seeing on Main Street, we are seeing on Wall Street. So riddle me this, Dan. We have the worst manufacturing numbers. We have the worst money velocity numbers. We have the worst jobs numbers in American history, in recorded history. Yet the stock market has put on 5,000 points in 3 weeks. How does that happen?
It's like they just throw numbers up there, if you ask me.
Well, they're printing it into oblivion and dumping it into the market because there's nothing else that's safe, right?
Yep.
And again, people are buying, you know, and in 2007, 2008, 2009, people got out of real estate and they started getting into other things. For example, the high-end valuable collector guitar market went through the roof. Guitars that were in 2004 and 5 $1,000 became $5,000 guitars in 2009 and 10. Okay, so we're not seeing any of that right now. We're seeing people paying off debt. We're seeing people hoarding cash. We're seeing people buying groceries and stuff like that. But we're not seeing big. And I'm not talking televisions. I'm talking cars and houses and stuff like that. We're not seeing that right now. As a matter of fact, right now it's almost impossible to get a mortgage. Even though these rates are supposed to be so low, people are waiting months now to get a mortgage. So you're seeing all your inflation right now in the stock market. And I think that ends when the debt cycle starts to end. So when they stop issuing debt or the credit freezes is another way that you've probably heard it put. when banks start calling these things or saying, hey, your credit card limit's been cut from 2,500 to 500. When you start seeing that, that's when you're going to see kind of a hyperinflation hit Main Street.
Exactly, man. And you got to see that everywhere, man. And I got friends who are going through some of that right now. And, you know, like I just bought a house, and, you know, my buddy, you know, he says he just bought a house. Now he's worried, you know what I mean? Because he's having a problem with his job. His hours are being cut back and everything else. And so now he's like shaking in his boots, and, you know, they got car payments and everything else. And just like it's weird, just like 3 months ago, whatever, everybody was fine. Everybody was doing fine. And just like that, bam, you know what I mean?
Yep. And so, you know what, especially as believers, I have been stressing in communities I'm in is, you know, we have to live really, 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 really well below our means, right? So if we're taking in $3,000 a month, we need to be living on $1,000 a month. I know that sounds almost impossible, and you know, I don't know how people are going to do it, to be honest with you. We have cut our spending. That's the key, right? The key to this, to making it out of this whole thing, first and foremost, is you got to cut your spending. It's got to go to next to nothing. If you don't need it, don't buy it. If you can fix it, try to fix it before you buy a new one. That's number one. Number two is you got to have some sort of store. Hard work that we've done throughout the, you know, decades that we've been working. You've got to have some way to store that. You know, different things look different for, you know, different people. So for me and my household, we stored in you know, precious metals and storable food, right? You know, stuff that's going to provide value for us down the road. So those are the things that are going to kind of get us through this, especially if your job's shaky right now, or you know, if your hours have been cut. My wife's hours got cut. It is what it is, you know. So, but yeah, I've just been telling people, live very, very, very simply, and that's kind of one way to start getting through this. Absolutely,
and we cut back too on a lot of stuff. Yeah, thankfully I'm still got a job, and my wife does too. But we're not taking advantage of it. And I mean, we're cutting back on things and just like saving, you know, buying storable foods and whatnot. And me, I buy guns and ammunition, you know, so for protection and all that. So, and it's a good investment as well. And so, that's right. You know, that's what they're telling people everywhere. You know what I mean? When this, even before this got out of Wuhan, this whole virus, we seen the writings on the wall was going to go on. So I went and, you know, called my friends, and families, neighbors. It's like, what the heck are you talking about? It's like, there's no virus out there. I'm like, no, you'll hear of it. Trust me. I went to the supermarket, stocked up in cases of water. They're looking at me weird. Is there something going on? I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm like, yep. It's like, you might want to stock up because these, within probably less than a week, you got to be swarmed. And yeah, I got laughed at, of course. And sure enough, here we go. You know what I mean? And it's weird how everybody just went after the toilet paper. I would think, you know, go after the water, the canned goods, and all that. And go in there, toilet paper aisles. I was like, what? That doesn't even make any sense.
I'll tell you, Dan. You know what it is? Do you remember the stories about 3 and 4 years ago coming out of Venezuela?
No.
Okay, so Venezuela basically collapsed. Economy, their society, like, you know, Chavez and Maduro ran it into the ground. It's still in the ground. The biggest thing that people were complaining about in Venezuela was the toilet paper, and they rioted. I'm talking looting, you know, armed guards were shot in banks. I mean, it was, and the biggest reason was toilet paper. I think it's crazy, but you know these globalists as well as I know them, and I think a big thing of how they do things is sportsmanship, right? I think they play games with this stuff to let people know what's going on. As soon as I heard there was some kind of thing with toilet paper, you know, I forewent the toilet paper. I started buying food, right? And so now you're hearing about food. Well, what's the next thing to go? Well, clean water, right? And so, you know, trying to stay a step ahead of these people is been interesting, to say the least. But the other portion of this is, guys and gals, we got to get creative in how we're thinking and how we're buying things, right? So you'll see on my Facebook page probably in the next couple of weeks where my wife and I won the toilet paper war, and I'm not going to give any more information away than that. But you got to think outside the box. Okay. One thing I heard one guy tell me the other day was he was thinking about getting a subscription to the local newspaper again because you have an endless supply of paper, right?
That's what I said with the Providence Journal here in Rhode Island. It's like, hey, finally we got use for the Providence Journal.
Its intended use is coming out, right?
Providence Urinal, that's a nickname for it, so it gives its name right there, But yeah, you're right, man, and but there's that's the least of my problems, I think. Like you always could jump in the shower, whatever, and but I think food and water is a lot, more, because you see people out there, they'll go grab junk. I was watching people shop, man. They're grabbing bags of potato chips, all you screaming and all that, and meanwhile the canned goods, the tuna fish and all that, still plenty of it there, still plenty of canned goods and all that, but they're all buying junk and everything else, and it's going to be a party in the house, and I don't mind sitting in the house for a few months or whatever, and they think it's just a big party.
This is survival right now. We are in the throes, and I think in the beginning of the throes of modern survivalism, and the economic side is one, I see that as kind of like storm clouds on the horizon. And so it's, what do you do now? What actions are you taking once you know this information? And I think we need to be in survival mode. Now, I'm not talking about, grabbing your bag and going out in the woods and camping. But I am talking about, if you're in a major metropolitan area and you have a chance to get out, you need to get out. If you have a chance to move to a place where you can learn how to do things and be a part of a community, if you have a chance to get tighter knit with your community, you need to be doing those things now. And quite frankly, you should have been doing them months ago, like we were talking about. But, it's never too late to start. Start that stuff now.
Yeah, that's what I'm thankful I live in, it's not a suburb, but it's like out there, but it's not in the city, thank God. And I got a lot of family lives in the city. I'm like, guys, you need to get out, because we know exactly what's going to happen, man. If all the crap, the proverbial crap, hits the fan, when they're moving from martial law and all that, chaos is going on, they're going to be concentrated on high populated areas of the city and everything else. And meanwhile, they'll start eventually working their way out to the outskirts, like the suburbs and all that. But and by that time, man, we already, a bunch of friends got together. Basically, if we really had to go, we got a couple bug out spots way deep in the woods, and we got that mentality now, right? We're ready to go at a moment's notice. You know what I mean? Because again, if this stuff happens, and I tell people all the time, get a plan going. You know what I mean? You get a plan going, and it's real easy to set up. You have a bunch of friends say, all right, we're going to set up a rendezvous spot. The rendezvous spot, everybody knows where the rendezvous spot is. And when you get to the rendezvous spot, only selected few trusted people know where the actual bug out spot is. This way, if you get to the rendezvous spot and there's some bunch of people come that you don't want with you, they're not going to know where you're going. You know what I mean? So, and you can filter them out from there. But, have food ready, all kinds of, people who know how to do certain things. Get into that survival mode, like you said. And always come up with contingency plans. And I have to go into the city once in a while to cover the crap at the state house. You know what I mean? So I'm always ready to bug out of there anytime. You know what I mean? And and I tell people, stay out of the cities as much as possible if you could right now, especially what's going on now.
That's right. And, the time now for having fun and playing video games and, kind of living the quote unquote American dream, that's done, y'all. It's over. And so now it's time to actually kind of man up, woman up, be adults, and start thinking of things that you can start doing to come out of this as unscathed as possible. And I'm not saying I'm the world's best, but, I will tell you that, we have had a wake-up call in my community, and I'm hoping other communities around. And I have been blasting the trumpets, saying, hey, there's something coming, guys, that I can't tell you exactly what it looks like, but I know it's really, really gnarly. And so, I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I think we can come out of this, but we're not going to be unscathed. And so you need to see what that looks like and see what that entails in your life so you can kind of plan for it. And I would start yesterday.
Absolutely. And there's, I go by these little survival things like mercy blankets and life straws and all kinds of stuff. And, and it's funny, too, because years ago, everybody laughed at the preppers. They had a show, and a lot of people just watched it to mock them. Oh, look at these dummies, Now, it's the other way around. And I'm very tied in with the Second Amendment community here in Rhode Island. And it's funny, too, because I know most of the guys that own the gun stores, and I go visit them here and there, whatever, and I'm at the gun stores, and we're seeing these people who used to hate guns, used to come out to the State House and preach for gun control, now coming to the gun store, hey, you guys are all right. Because, even Shannon Watts, the national director of Mothers Demand Action, she was infuriated that there was Democrats, people supported her at one time, now out buying guns. Because now they finally realize, hey, these guys are right the whole time, and who's going to protect our families, especially with the cops. The thing is, depending where you live, I mean, you can't trust the cops to protect you. You got to worry about the cop. You got to worry about the cops more than the actual villains. You know what I mean? And so it depends where you live. We got good cops too, but still, even if this crap hits a fan, 911, you're not. It's gonna be useless. You're gonna have to defend yourselves.
That's exactly right. And a buddy of mine owns a gun store. I help him out 2 or 3 days a week here and there. And, I've seen all sorts of crazy stuff going on, man. And it's, people trying to buy every AR-15 we have, or, buy all the AK-47s. And, so it's been a time where I've said, look, you need to start with your house first. Like, you're not going to use an AR-15 to defend your home. Like, you're going to use an AR-15 to defend your homestead, right? Like, I'm sorry, the last thing I want to grab is an AR-15 when it's close quarters combat.
Yeah.
So look, go get a 20 gauge shotgun. They're cheap. They're available. That's about the best thing you're going to use to defend your home in that kind of scenario. Go get a handgun. I mean, you can't find 9mm or, all that good stuff right now, but you can find 45s. You can find revolvers right now. That's the kind of, so you need to be thinking and acting on a plan, because when the mess hits, your plan is what you're going to have, right? And so if it's something that can be executed, great. If it's something that's kind of a pipe dream, you're up garbage creek, for lack of better terms.
Exactly. And, I got a lot of friends that don't have guns, and they're out buying them, now they're all sold out. But what I recommend, especially for a woman, and I'm not saying woman enough, strong enough, but I always recommend a 9mm is perfect. If you get one, that's fine. 38 will do just as good too. I mean, it's good stopping power, cheap on ammo, and it'll do the job, especially close quarters in the house. Now, I got an AR-15. Much as I would love to whip that up, there's a couple guys in the house, man. In tight quarters, man, you're not going to be able to defend yourself. Unless you're standing in the room, if they come through the door, then you unload the magazine on them, you know what I mean? But, you always have things tactically planned. And I always recommend people, get a shotgun. Shotgun and a handgun is the most perfect defense you could get. And if you want to get an AR-15, whatever, it's fine. But, again, a handgun and definitely a shotgun, that's highly recommended to get. And those weapons are good for hunting as well. And because you might have to go out into the wilderness. You know what I mean? And so things like 22s, catch small game, whatever the case. But I got a bunch of these weapons, whatever, and for different scenarios and everything. So I'm well prepared for this. You know what I mean? I got ammo stocked up, and I was even afraid to go to the range, because I'm like, if I go to the range and blow off my ammo, man. And ammo is through the roof right now, the prices. So I haven't been to the range since this thing started.
Yeah, it's been tough, man. I'm sitting here. right? And so I've been stacked a little lead myself, but it's getting harder and harder and harder to come by, even in distributors. So we talked about supply chain earlier. You know, truckers and all this other, I can't, like, at the store that I work at, like, getting 9mm right now from any distributors is almost impossible. And that's one of the most mass-produced rounds there is. You can't get it. And so, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, yeah, you got to start thinking a little differently. You know, if you are used to going to the range every week and blowing off 1,000 rounds, you need to not do that right now, because you're not going to be able to get it back for a while, if at all.
Exactly, and that's why I hold off on the range right now. But yeah, what we talk about, folks out there, is what you can do right now to be prepared. You know what I mean? And especially those people in the faith, because there's a lot of people in the faith that don't know any better either. You know, yeah, I mean that in the most respectful way. You know, they just take advantage of things. But what does Jesus say? You know what I mean? With the 3 women with the lamp and the oil. You know what I mean? Be prepared. You know what I mean? Don't take things for granted. And, you know, because his number one thing Jesus was always saying is to watch. Watch. You know what I mean? And he gave us the signs to look forward to, and we're starting to see that. And it's not just like this financial crisis out there. You got the locusts, like the swarms the size of cities out in Africa. You got like unreal weather patterns going on right now. I forgot what else is going on too. It's biblical.
Heard about the murder hornet?
Oh, the hornets, yeah. Wasp the size of your thumb, man. That's crazy. You may have to use a shotgun for that.
Yeah, well, that's I think 7.5 bird shot should take care of the swarm of those. But yeah, so just like you said, man, it's we're, you know, these people who are, you know, saying, well, Trump has taken over the Federal Reserve, all this other stuff. You know, they believe he's playing some kind of like 7D chess or something, whatever they say. That is absolutely happening, but it's death by 1,000 cuts, right? So it's, you know, this is happening and that is happening. This is happening. This is happening. I'm telling people now, the first thing you can do besides, and I'm not talking like finance now, I'm not talking guns. What I am talking right now is the first thing you should do right now is look at your household and look at the spiritual well-being, the emotional well-being, the psychological the physical well-being of your household, and get that in order. Get it in check today. Okay. In my life, one thing I've had to learn pretty quickly, and that has humbled me greatly, is, you know, sometimes the best medicine we can have is forgiveness, right? So, you know, I had to learn very quickly that I've done all these great preps, I've done all this great financial work, but it meant nothing until I started forgiving people. And that's first and foremost, because there's a peace that comes with that that's going to help you get through times like this and help you make way better decisions than you would otherwise. So I want to encourage people to do that.
Yes, that's very important. Forgiveness, because you got to remember, folks, Jesus forgave us. He forgives us for our sins when we confess them. And all of us, every one of us are human beings. We do sins, and we're embarrassed ourselves. Even though nobody else knows about them sometimes, we're embarrassed, okay? So we confess them to the Lord, and he forgives them. And so if he could do that, you know what I mean, you could surely, doesn't matter what somebody did, yeah? You could surely forgive them. You don't have to like them. You don't have to be best friends with them. Forgive them and move on. You know what I mean? And I was going through some family problems, and at the time I was away from my wife at the time, whatever the case. And it was a long story with both of our families and all that stuff going at it. And so when I learned, it was like a year later, I learned, like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to forgive them. And I literally wiped the slate clean in my heart. I prayed for like an hour at least, man. And every year I went to everybody, that was involved, friends, whatever the case, that, messed me over, whatever the case. I'm like, you know what? I brought it to my heart to truly forgive them. And I really, really forgave them. And literally a month later, everything started getting better again. Like these people started coming around, and You know, and it went right back, because we're human beings. I mean, we have friends and brothers we fight with, and, you know, next day we're friends again. You know, it's like that, everybody. You know what I mean? And forgiveness is a big key to this whole system, because, you know, especially being in this day and time, man, all of us need to help each other out. We need to count on each other and stick with each other.
That's right. And, you know, just like you said, man, you know, the big breakthrough for me was, you know, sometimes you just got to let go, man. You just got to let it go. It's just not, you know, in times like this, something, you know, well, and I would say a lot of things that we think are worth kind of our time are not worth our time anymore. Right. And so when you start letting stuff like that go, there's this peace that comes about that, I mean, it really does surpass all understanding, and it helps you kind of open the door to that life that He wants us to live.
It does, and everything else falls in place, man. When you come to the Lord, to the cross, everything else around you falls in place, and you know, which ties right back to this whole financial system, man. People are going to start worrying out there. You know, at first I was too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a hypocrite. I'll admit I was worried. I'm like, man, how am I going to feed my family? I was like really losing it. You know what I mean? And you know, all these worries come to my mind. And when all this stuff happens, I have to go back to square one. It's like, you know, let me consult with Scripture and prayer, then Scripture, and boom, right back to square one. Don't worry. Because God says, does the birds worry about what they're going to eat tomorrow? That's powerful if you really think about it. A bird, okay, they're not guaranteed nothing, okay? They know the Lord's going to feed them. They know the Lord's going to provide for them. And, you know, and if a bird could do that, a human being that's one of God's greatest creations here, that He's going to give us the kingdom to God, you know what I mean? And we got to do the same thing, you know, just not worry and come to the cross, you know what I mean? And, you know, trust in the Lord.
So Solomon was, many scholars still believe this, he was the richest man the world has ever known. You know what Jesus said about Solomon?
What's that?
That in all Solomon's glory, he was not clothed as magnificently as the lilies of the field. That's nuts, man. When you think about, like you said, and then it's in the same passage as the birds, right? They don't work, they don't toil, yet God provides for them. And then furthermore, Solomon in all his glory wasn't clothed as one of the lilies is clothed. I mean, that's incredible. So yeah, God is going to take care of us. The problem with that mindset is oftentimes it doesn't look like we think it should look, right? Yeah. Or it doesn't come to fruition like we want it to come to fruition. And guys and gals, we got to let go of that. We got to let go of that. We got to start doing the right things and then saying, you know what? I've done what I can do. The Father is going to do what He is going to do. And at the end of this, that's where this lays. And that's all we can do.
Exactly, and we need to trust in the Lord, and it doesn't mean He's going to hand us stuff on a silver platter. We got to work for it too. He doesn't work like that, you know. Like you guys, these false ministries on Facebook and all that. Oh, do this and that, and you'll be blessed with, you know, thousands. You know, God doesn't do stuff like that, you know, for a reason. You know what I mean? It's a good reason too, because it teaches us self-reliance as well. And so we got to work for everything we get, but He's going to give it to us. He's going to help us. You know what I mean? And so that needs to be said. And you know, in these end times, man, and here's the thing, all right, is this vaccine, I'm sorry, this whole COVID-19, whatever, is this the push for the New World Order? We don't know. This could be, yes, this could be a major test going on, but if it is a test, guys, I'm telling you right now, okay, even things go back to normal for a while, you better get on your hands and knees and thank the Lord. Plain and simple, He's giving you a new start. And a lot of people, too, worry about, you know, Bill Gates with this, you know, the patent 666, ID 2020, is this the mark of the beast and all that. Now, here's the thing. Some of it's failing. These global things are failing right now because, again, people need to understand this. It will help you calm down, too. understand, okay, the globes could push, they know the end, okay, they know what's going on more than most Christians do, unfortunately. And so they try to defy God. They know God's going to give them a certain time, but they try to defy God by going against his time and pushing at things ahead of time. But this is why Bill Gates is failing a little bit, because with this because most of the people say, hell no, we're not getting a vaccine, and especially a damn implant. You know what I mean? So you got a mass resistance. So, and with my understanding, I could be wrong. My understanding is what the prophets say. I think it's the Antichrist himself is the one that makes this mandatory. And again, they're rolling it out. What they're doing is they're testing the waters out, see what the people react. They need to see how people react to it. See, test the waters and all that stuff. They're doing that now with these beta tests and everything else. But I really truly believe it's the Antichrist. He's the one who's going to push the mark of the beast. You know what I mean? But it's here. It shows you that. And if it goes back to normal, guys, again, thank the Lord, for some borrowed time. But the other thing is, too, I would rather just get it over with. And one part of me says, yeah, I want to do that. Other part of me says, I want to get it over with. You know what I mean? So,
that's exactly right. Yeah. I think you said it really well, Dan. What if this is the? Well, I'm not going to go that far, but I am going to say that this is right. This is a ushering in of something. Like, I think there's going to be a bunch of those, right? You don't take one broomstick and knock a door down, but if you did it long enough, you could punch through a door pretty easily, right? And so that's what's happening right now. And I think the more that we can stand up and say, we will absolutely not do these things. We're not going to do these things. The better off we're going to be.
And they come like hurricanes too.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. We have churches in America who are saying, we're going to defy these orders. We're going to meet. And I say, you know what? You have every right to do that. However, where were you when sin marched on your congregation and marched in through the front doors and you didn't stop it, right?
Yep.
So this should be a wake-up call to all of us saying, hey, what do we actually believe? What do we actually stand for? Why are we drawing breath right now, right? And so once we start really getting to know ourselves through those kind of questions, I think we can start standing up to these things and saying, you know what? I'll stay at home a little while. But, once these numbers start coming in and I see they're fake, I'm done, right? Will I take a vaccine? Absolutely not. You're going to have to lop my head off. Sorry.
Same here.
I'm not taking a vaccine. Furthermore, am I taking a test? No, I'm not taking a test either. Sorry. When I had the flu in February, you had your chance. So there you go. But those are the type of things that I think when we become secure in, and that's why I talked about forgiveness earlier, because it helps us become secure in who we are in the Lord. Once we start really seeing those things to fruition, it's going to be really hard to stop us from succeeding, whether we die or not. It's going to be hard for us to stop succeeding in our goal, which, I think ultimately is living the life that he wants us to live and telling people about him.
And you got that right, man. And that's what we need to do, is live the life, best we can, and then, again, we all know, we're going to sit here, swear, or think something, it's something in our mind, whatever the case, but at the end of the night, man, you need to come to you need to go in your room, like the Lord says, pray in your secret place, you know what I mean? Go in your bedroom, shut the door, and get on your hands and knees, and that's called supplications. It's called the actual act of praying. We all could lay in bed all night or lay whatever, sit on the couch and pray. You can pray anywhere, but supplications is the physical part of praying, and that is more powerful because you're giving obedience to the Lord. You're showing these, what supplications means in the Bible. That's exactly what it means. You're showing physical attribute as well as the spiritual attribute of praying. And that's what you do, man. Get on your hands and knees. And if you're handicapped, man, don't worry about it, But, just supplications is important.
Yeah. Well, it is. And that gets back to, again, what can you start doing? Start reading your word and doing what it says, right? Like, that's a huge thing. So, and look, don't forget parts of it. Don't just say, well, that's done away with, or we haven't seen this part yet. Don't say any of that.
Yeah.
Start doing that word, not for salvation, but because you realize that, look, there's a God, your creator, the very thing that made you, okay, offers you life and offers you a way to get around this stuff to where it's not our end all be all. And once we start realizing that and start realizing that, hey, we have a chance to please him by our actions, again, not for salvation, but because we love him. When we start doing that, all this other stuff just kind of goes in the background. And it can, our awareness is heightened and all this other stuff, but it's not why we live and breathe. These YouTube things and the radio channels and all this stuff. It's not why we live and breathe, man. It's just a means to an end. And that end is loving our Father in heaven with every breath. Every time we wake up, every time we lay down, every time we're on the road, it should be for him.
Absolutely. And you're right about the radio stuff. I just, I would love like this whole thing to all be over so I could take all my equipment and everything and one giant big bonfire and get rid of it. I hate technology. I hate all this stuff because even before we got on the air, folks, I was having major problems like with this system here. The Skype wasn't working, wasn't corresponding with the OBS program. We took like a half hour to get him on here, and the system worked good. Then we had problems with the internet. So there's always a problem, whatever. But that's what you got to do here. Even in the professional, I worked in professional radio stations and whatnot, and you still have problems. That's the nature of the business when it comes to media. So you always got to be prepared to adjust something, whatever the case. But so sometimes this stuff drives me crazy, man, because you get this idea in your head, you got this great show, and that's why I had a rocky start of the show, because I'm like, because in my head I was just like so steamed because I couldn't get on when I wanted to. So I get on the show, I'm like, financial, and I had to read the thing because I totally forgot everything, you know what I mean? So, so that's why we do go through this stuff, man, and, we're real people too, that's the other thing. And I want to switch gears to a little bit, now, from my understanding, I could be wrong, okay? Years ago, I had friends come out and say, hey, invest into blockchain technology, Bitcoin and all that. And what stopped me from doing it is, the only thing that stopped me from doing it is, because they were saying, it goes against the Federal Reserve. But the thing is, isn't this getting you accustomed to a cashless society, a digital currency? Isn't this conditioning you to do that? That's what stopped me doing it, because to me, it's like, all right, let's brainwash people, say, it's against the system, but yet you're submitting and you're getting the idea, of a cashless society. Am I wrong on that, or?
Well, yes and no. So, I mean, there's really good and there's really bad. There's kind of, it's a spectrum. And there's opposite ends of that spectrum, and they kind of come together sometimes, and they do this number. So I stay out of a lot of that as much as I can. I will tell you that, it seems to be of all the new systems that could replace what's going on now, it seems to be the most solid. However, it is still highly controlled. It will become, it's not right now, but it will become highly regulated. And so the way I use that stuff now is when I buy into it, I set a price in my head that when it gets to, I get out of it. And then when it hits that price, I get the heck out of it. And then I turn it into silver, or I turn it into food, or I turn it into gas in my car's, tank or whatever. Right. And so if you're using it like a person would use a shovel, or a person would use a chainsaw, I think it works really well. Some people are buy and hold. They buy and hold that kind of stuff. That's great. I just, Bitcoin was almost to 10 grand today. I don't have that kind of cash to buy and hold, right? And so Anyway, long story short, I just, if you want to get into that stuff, do your research the mess out of it before you get into it. And if you have an end game in mind with that and a plan, I don't see anything wrong with it at this point.
Yeah,
as far as it being like, as far as it being like a part of the mark of the beast, I don't think that's the case. I do think it is a system that could replace the current system should it go awry. But there are so many people right now, Dan, that do not want that system to go awry. And I think they're all going to have to cease existing before this kind of system goes away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes totally sense. And because what my point was, that is a good idea. If you want to get into it, you set a goal and get out. Because what we know, what the scripture says, when this end times currency comes, you ain't gonna be able to buy, sell, or save without the mark of the beast. That means everything else is gonna be rendered useless. That's what my understanding is, and that's the only reason why it's like, why do I want to bother with the blockchain, the Bitcoin and all that. But what you did say too makes a heck of a lot of sense. Set a goal and cash out when the time is right, and which nobody explained it to me that way, which that makes a lot of sense. And you're right. That is like this or that. You know what I mean? So if I had the chance, I think I would probably.
Yeah. So it's like. If you look at the people who are remembered, like, let's just say in baseball history, right? So, these people are, remembered for like their all around great play. There was a guy named Dave Kingman. Did you ever watch baseball?
Seldomly. I'm not going to lie. I don't really watch much. Probably the playoffs. That's it. I'm a football fan.
I got you. So I'm a big like statistical nerd. So I kind of gravitated towards baseball because it's all statistics. Anyway, long story short, there's a guy named Dave Kingman, hit a ton of bombs, dude. I'm talking like 500-foot home runs. The problem is he'd get up to bat 500 or 600 times a year and he'd hit 45 home runs. The big problem is he didn't hit a whole lot of other things. And so, his average would stay between 215 and 230 every year, right? And so not a lot of people have heard of him, even though he hit almost 500 home runs in his career, okay? You equate that with someone like Tony Gwynn or Ty Cobb or someone like that who got a lot of hits, right? So they played the long game and they played it well the whole time. That's how the stock market works. So, the home run hitters, the guys who predict the lows and predict the highs, they are very few and far between, and quite frankly, no one remembers them, right? We remember people like Warren Buffett, who played the middle, right? He got the singles and the doubles and the triples and the stolen bases and all that good stuff. That's who we kind of look towards for some sort of, hey, how do you play this? So you're never going to play the low. You're never going to play the high. You play in between. And so that's why it's important to set goals. I think right now, just kind of looking at this market, the fair value of this market is probably under 10,000 with the way our economy is. It was at 24.5 today. Okay. So we know it's inflated, right?
Yep.
I'm telling people it's probably going up. It's probably going up from here because there's no fundamentals anymore. And it's all funny money being pumped into it. So, if you've got a stake in this and can ride it up, and again, I don't give financial advice, especially on a personal level. But what I've seen from these markets is if you can ride it up or ride it down, like that's your call, and you got to be comfortable with it. But you're not going to pick the top, and you're not going to pick the bottom. So stay somewhere in the middle and make your money.
Absolutely, and that was my only gripe about that. And what you said makes a lot of sense. To set a goal, then get out of that. Because again, like what I try to explain to people, it's like the end times. When it comes to these times, all that stuff is going to be worthless because the only people are going to be taking things is through the system. You can't buy, sell, save without it. And that being said, man, they're going to come out every which way to attack. They're going to probably come up with a way somehow, some way to attack Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies and all that to take control of the market. And when it comes to money, we know how the IRS works, okay? If they know there's money going on and they don't have their hand in the pocket, somebody's going down. Something's going to happen, and if they find out, So that's how the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, is too. And these are globalists. When it comes to money, they want control of it, and they want control of you even more.
That's right. And, look, you got to play the market you're given, right? You got to play what you're given. If your expertise is in, cattle, rock and roll, man. If your expertise is in guns and ammo, rock and roll. If your expertise is in, fill in the blank, like that's what you got to do. And so, if your expertise is not picking tops and bottoms of markets, don't do it. There's no reason in the world why you should play that game. You'd be better off going to one of those fine casinos up in the Northeast and and playing the nickel slots, right? So just be, if you're using stuff with blockchain, it is highly, highly volatile. It's like dealing with gasoline vapor. Okay. It's extremely unstable. It's very volatile. One day it may stabilize. One day it may go to zero. No one really knows. And if someone claims they know, they're not telling you the whole truth.
Exactly. And speaking of the casinos, because we got the Foxwoods and the Mohegan up here, I guess the two biggest casinos in the world. And but they were talking about opening them up. And here in Rhode Island we have Twin River. It used to be a dog track up here, the racetrack. And our governor is talk about, let's open up Twin River. Now, you go into that place, the only place, check this out, right, in Rhode Island, every restaurant, store you can't smoke in. You can't smoke in the bars, but you can smoke in Twin River because it's state run. How's that for, I don't smoke, but how's that fair for everybody else? You know what I mean? And so now she's like, oh, we got to keep everything closed, but we're going to open a casino. So, all right, first of all, people don't have money as it is. So now you're going to have these people with gambling problems go up there and blow everything they have. It doesn't make no sense. Any which way about it doesn't make no sense at all.
That's right. Well, and, like here, you can't go get a haircut, but, you can go to Lowe's Home Improvement and have somebody cough all over you. But, you can't go get a haircut from someone you've been going to for 20 years. The whole thing makes absolutely no sense. And I think, on its simplest level, I mean, we can go into what ifs and stuff, and those are all pretty valid, as far as thinking through things. But the whole entry level to this is no one knows a thing that's going on to any degree of certainty right now.
Absolutely.
That's the whole bottom line is, if someone tells you that for a fact that this is the way it is, they're lying to you. Okay. So you have to use your best judgment at this point. Do I agree? I live here in North Carolina where, I don't necessarily agree with the governor. Are there some things he's put in place that I've, heeded to? Absolutely. I don't want my businesses to be shut down. I don't want my friends to go without. I don't, so yeah, there are things I've said, yeah, I will absolutely do. There are some things that I absolutely will not do. And fortunately, he hasn't made us, there's some places, you have to wear a mask when you do this. Our governor has not enforced that or even mentioned that you have to do that. And so, long story short, pray about it, think about it, talk through it with family and friends, but, don't believe everything you hear. Don't believe anything you hear at this point. Take it all with a grain of salt. And I tell people, look, I love to be proven wrong. If I'm dead wrong about all this and it really is, a bed of roses on the other side, awesome, right? I heard one guy put it this way, as far as storing food and stuff, I can eat my mistakes, right? So those kind of things are what are going to get us through these times, those kind of mindsets. And, not to be fearful, but to be aware and to be cognizant of what's going on, I think is super, super important.
It is. You're right on that. And when all this first started happening, right from the get-go, we're reporting on it. It's like, listen, China's going to, we call this how it's, they're going to lie about the numbers, and when it comes to the United States and everywhere else, they're going to hype the numbers up so they can sell a vaccine. Yep. And China, they don't want to look bad. So, and I said, do not believe in any numbers. I don't care if it comes from me, InfoWars, or whoever. Do not believe any numbers because there's no number accurate. Unless they could possibly test everybody on the planet, then even then, the numbers are going to be off. Because now we got the underlying deaths now, where people are dying from other causes, nothing to do with the COVID-19, and the CDC is telling hospitals, oh, list them as a COVID-19 death. This way it keeps the hype up. You know what I mean? And just say me and you, right? If I had a bad heart condition for a year, you had liver cancer for 6 months, right? And today, both of us caught the COVID-19. Just like next week I die from a heart attack. A week later, you die from liver cancer. They would list both of us in the statistics as a COVID-19 death. And this is going on everywhere. Right. People with the flu, too. You know what I mean? Like, they're ready to die from the flu and they get the COVID-19. Now they get listed as a COVID-19 death. And so, again, we're not saying that that's not real. We're not saying it's fake. But they are hyping the numbers up big time. And that's why I say don't listen to any numbers out there. We can't trust nothing.
We can't trust. That's exactly right. And, here's one that I haven't heard anyone else say. Look, all the stuff I know and see, you can hear on 1,000 other financial channels right now. Like, I'm not saying anything brand new. I look at things a little differently, but not too much differently than people who have been doing this, a long time. Okay, here's one thing that you have not heard. What happens if, I've been hearing, oh, they're never going to open it up. Okay, what happens if they open this thing up, everything, we can say there's some sense of normalcy again. And the numbers for this disease go through the flipping roof. What happens then, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, even when they say this thing is going to be opened up and, everybody's ready for business again, I don't believe it. Not for a second. Yeah. I'm not going to believe anything I hear until I, absolutely do the research on it.
Absolutely. I seen the meme today. It was funny. It's like the only way to end this whole virus thing right now, just cancel the elections for this year and watch how fast it goes back to normal.
Yeah. Yep. And all the pensions and all the, all the lobbyists and all that stuff, you send them all home? Because, dude, I can guarantee you right now, those lobbyists in Washington, D.C. are still working, right? And so, like, you send all that mess home and say, okay, you're shut down? Yeah, we'll see how fast this thing ends.
Absolutely. And it's kind of funny, man. And, a virus that is not, it's not even bad when it comparison to the malaria, the flu, cancer, car accidents, just this year alone, abortions, that's unreal. You know what I mean? And, when you look at everything else, it's non-comparison. We're not saying it's not bad, but it's not in comparison to the worst things that are going on. But we're not shutting the economy down for that. So you can see there's an agenda behind it. And what they're going to do, and we know it's biological warfare. I mean, like, we had the patents we showed, the Bill Gates and even Fauci invested millions of dollars into this. The writings are on the wall. I mean, even now our own government's coming out to say, hey, this was created in a lab. But they're not coming out to say that it was Americans involved with it too. Not just China. There was Americans involved, like Bill Gates and people like him were involved with the whole mess as well. So it was the global, so, plain and simple. So that's what they're not saying. But, so it's going to be a big mess. And I really think, man, this is going to bring a World War III, man. I mean, because you can see it with the tensions heating up. I think there's going to be a third World War of this. I mean, we read the stuff from Albert Pike, the globalists over the years. Their goal is for 3 world wars to push their new world order. You know what I mean? And what they want to do is they want to set up Satan's kingdom, a one world government, economy, religion. We got the one world religion set up. Pope Francis, I call him I truly believe 99.9%, and David Carrico does too, that this man is the false prophet of the end times. He set up the ecumenical movement, and the UN adopted it a couple of years ago as their official one world religion. And they got Muslims and everybody else under him, and he's spearheading this whole thing. Then you got the economic system falling into play. The technology's here for the mark of the beast. I mean, everything's here, ready to go. You know what I mean? When they're putting the Baphomet statues everywhere, the spiritual warfare dramatically increased. And I can't say too much because of the algorithm here, but when they put these Baphomet, because it's the androgynous god, Look how many people wanted to change sex. Look how many kids are involved with this because it's with kids. Child sacrifice was involved with these things. Abortion, 2018, 2019, number one cause of death worldwide. 43 million, I think, about 43 million babies each year. That's almost 80, 90 million babies in 2 years. God knows what's happened this year that have been victims of homicide and child sacrifice is exactly what it is, man. And so you're seeing all this demonic seething energies taking place, and this hate, this huge kingdom of hate and evil being promoted everywhere. The Disney Channel, all these cartoons to say, hey kids, look, you get involved with the cult, get involved with sex, get involved with this, and look what the World Health Organization just said. We're going to teach kids 0 to 4 years old how to masturbate. You know what I mean? And you're like, what the hell is going on, man? And they call this the new norm.
Well, that's exactly right. And so, that covert worship of the evil one is definitely on the rise. I think the more dangerous thing that's on the rise, though, is I said covert, I meant overt, right? The overtly worshiping Satan. The covert worshiping of self, I think is extremely dangerous as well, because, at the end of this pandemic, who doesn't want to have a brighter day and a better humanity, right? I mean, you're gonna hear that phrase come out, and mark my words, you're gonna hear that phrase come out very soon. That it's a better humanity is on the horizon, and all you're doing there is worshiping yourself at this point. And these people are not worshiping humanity; they're worshiping themselves. So throughout all of time and memorial, I have a theory that people have worshipped one of three things, and two of the three things lead back to Satan, pretty much. But you've either worshipped the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you've worshipped yourself, or you've worshipped the Son. And the last two things lead to that satanic kingdom that you were talking about. So I want to be real leery of the great deception that's coming, and I want to be real leery of the covertness of worshiping humanity or worshiping yourself or your rights or whatever in regards to that, because I think that's the great quote unquote peacemaker that will come, that we know is going to be false, is going to be preaching a better humanity at that point. Your statement about the Pope and how that stuff goes, I think it could be spot on, man.
Yeah, and you just seen it happen, man, and everything just fall into line. And when he came about, he made more headlines than anybody, man. All the stuff he did, he's done more pope than any other pope has done. He had atheists of all people adorning this man, loving the man. Buddhists, all these different Eastern religions, even the Muslims, all joining force with this guy. Even these mainstream Christian churches here in America love this whole ecumenical movement. And they think it's a good thing. You got people on the 700 Club saying, "Hey, I wouldn't mind taking a chip inside my hand if it kept me safe." Or this dude with the Pope is doing such a beautiful thing. Pat Robertson was saying that one time. Pope Francis is such a blessed person to this earth, and they're just adorning and bringing on this new age thing, and even the 700 Club, I think it's Pat Robertson, he said wide is the gate to heaven when Scripture said narrow is the gate to heaven. And they're telling people it doesn't matter if you believe in Buddha, it doesn't matter if you believe in Muhammad, Krishna, whoever the heck, okay, we're all going to heaven, and that's not what the Scripture says. Only through Jesus you go to heaven. So you got the Pope, and if you read Revelation, right, the end times false prophet, that talks blasphemy. Look what the Pope's doing on the world stage, telling people, I can forgive you for your sins. You don't need to go to God. I can forgive you. And we all go to heaven. You don't need Jesus only. And that's blasphemy. Then calling himself Holy Father on top of it. That's the nail, the icing on the cake. So it's not just Pope, man. You got the UN now, all these, Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg groups, and we could go on with all these alphabet international organizations, and we have the 10 world plan, the zones that the Club of Rome you set up with literally 10 kingdoms on the earth. The Bible talks about, and right here in America too, we get the 10 FEMA zones, and they have fusion centers for each one. And a lot of people are not aware about this. There's 10 governors that nobody elected. They're called the Council of Governors that Obama started. 5 Republican, 5 Democrat, and nobody's elected these people. They run each FEMA zone, how coincidental, and they answer to no one but the president. You know what I mean? So people are not aware about that. And also the Club of Rome's 10 world grid they got. Like the European Union and North American Union, they try to push before. And again, it's all according to God's plan if God allows these things to happen. So we could be here all night, man. So if there's anything else you wanted to touch on before we get going?
Yeah, just wanted to, since November, since I've been doing a lot of this stuff, started with John and the folks at Now You See TV and stuff. I've really tried to paint a picture that is of warning, but also of great hope, right? And so there is a great hope to this, and that what I'm finding is that this great hope is that we don't have control over this, okay? So there are things that we can control. There are things that we can kind of do to protect ourselves and our families and our loved ones. But at the end of the day, the very creator of the universe gives us an open and ample opportunity to worship him and to become children of his. We get to be adopted into his family, and that comes at a great price. But it is very, very hopeful that we get to be a part of that kingdom. We get to dine at his table. And so I wanted to leave everybody with that tonight and today, whenever you listen to this, that there is a kingdom coming that is not like anything we've ever seen. And I'm really, really stoked that I get to be a part of that kingdom instead of this kingdom where murder and pillaging and all this nefarious stuff is commonplace. None of that is commonplace in the kingdom that's coming. And I'm really grateful for that. So, and I think you should be too. Get into your word, read your scripture, start doing that very word that you read. And I promise you that all this stuff that you're seeing right here will become pretty inconsequential in the grand scheme of things.
Absolutely, man. And I've been, on my show every night, on my nightly news show, I finish out with some biblical scripture to get people awake to say, hey, listen, calm down. The Lord's in control, you know what I mean? And it doesn't mean lay back and do nothing either, but it means, listen, don't worry, you know what I mean? Yeah, you need to do some of your part too, but also don't worry about it because God's got this whole thing under control. And the thing is, here's the good thing, the best news of all. The war's already won. Okay, it's already won. Now we got the finish line in view right now. And again, we don't know if this is a final test, and if it is, again, thank the Lord. Either way, you've seen a lot of people come to the Lord right now. And this is somewhat a good awakening going on. People rising up for patriotism, people rising up for God now. Even the DOJ is starting to stick up for the churches, which is surprisingly. But anyway, you're seeing all this come to par, and people resisting the vaccinations, telling Bill Gates to shove his vaccine in his chip up his, literally, you know what I mean? And so your people are standing up big time. So we're seeing a huge rise in that. So we don't know where this is going to go. You know what I mean? And again, it's going to be the Antichrist. When he's here, he's going to institute so much hell on this planet. And it's going to be hell before that too. And as these things are going to go along, you're going to see things happen, then they're going to calm down again. Things happen, but it's going to be shorter in term, shorter. And it's like you're giving birth, like the Bible says, birth pains. Each contraption is going to get longer and sooner apart, quicker, closer apart. Nearer apart, I'm sorry. Yeah. So it's like having a contraption every 10 minutes. It's going to go down to 5 minutes, to 3 minutes, to 2 minutes, and they're going to get longer in length. So right now we're in those contraptions. So I don't know, we're probably in the 3rd month. I don't know. You know what I mean? I can't tell you. But the baby is about to give birth. So I'm just telling you right now. So we need to be ready for that baby. And that mean in the tense, I'm trying to make it out here to say, our Savior is coming. And, he says right out that when the man of perdition is revealed, the sun and moon is going to lose its light. And at any time, literally the day or the hour, he's going to come through the clouds with great glory. It's going to be a grand Hollywood entrance. And, you know, we need to focus on that. We need to look toward that, get to all the smut right here and just focus like a laser beam, right all through the smut and look at that finish line ahead. Because it doesn't matter. We could get, any one of us could get killed off tomorrow. You know, but you know what? He'll be sending us home. But if we're here, okay, we are here, we endure through all this, guys. We're going to see the most wonderful thing, like people for all thousands of years of generations, okay? They've waited for this one point in time. We're here, okay? That alone should give you goosebumps. Regardless of the bad stuff that's going on, that alone should give you goosebumps. But we are here, and we are right now, we're at that doorway, plain and simple. And so if there's anything else, Rob, you want to disclose?
Yeah, man. So I just want to reiterate, Dan, we all face an end of days, right? We all face something that I mean, it's given to every man to die once. And we don't have to live through revelations to face our end of days, right? And so now is the time I think we should be living like we actually believe that and know that. And what are we going to do today that guarantees a legacy, not only for our friends and family and stuff, but for our King on this earth?
Good question, and that's something for you all out there to meditate tonight, and just take this information. And there was so much more we could, me and him could talk for hours about this stuff, man. And so we just want you to take this information as a grain of salt, seek the Lord for knowledge, and tonight just pray to the Lord and say, hey. Because he says, he who has eye, I will let him see. Who has ear, I will let him hear. So we got eyes, we got ears. Say, Lord, I got eyes, I want to see. I got ears, I want to hear. And he's going to show you, plain and simple. It might not be right away, but he will show you, like he did to me and to Rob and everybody else. So that being said, then how could people find you, Rob?
Sure. You can, if you get on Facebook, go to Rob Blackwell Music on Facebook. You can hit me up there. Make sure to send me a message there. Questions, concerns, comments. Again, I don't answer like personal financial advice. I've had people kind of send me that. I don't do that. I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm glad to tell you what my family and I do. I'm glad to tell you kind of 30,000 foot high level overviews of what I know about the economy and what I know about finance, and can help you kind of find a way to find your own answers. So yeah, hit me up there. May the Lord bless you guys and protect you and shine his face to you and be gracious to you.
And thank you once again, Rob. And that's Rob Blackwell, folks. Check him out, and also check him out on IAC TV. He's got tons of videos with them. And that's how I met him through his, my buddies John and David. So anyway, guys, I'll see you. This is going to air Wednesday night. We did a pre-recording, by the way. So I'm sorry, this is going to air Sunday night. So in that case, we'll see you tomorrow night, Monday night, on the Nightly News at 6 p.m. Eastern with Dan Bidondi. And this is Dan Bidondi for the Dan Bidondi Show and Rob Blackwell. God bless, shalom, and remember, you are the resistance. Defending liberty in the spirit of 1776. It's Dan Bidondi on